Thank you for attending my presentation. So, to be fair, I'm pretty certain mine's really boring in comparison to a lot of the others that I've seen today, because they've got like really good topics. And here I am talking about graduate employability. So not as exciting as kind of everyone else's, but a little bit of a journey into my research and where I've kind of got up to at the moment. Currently, I'm just writing the analysis sections up, so I've gathered the data. So I'm just going to kind of give you that overview of how I've ended up on this topic and kind of how I've got here. So, how did I end up on the topic in the first place? So I was working in a business incubation hub across the road, and whilst I was working on reception, whilst I was a student here, what I noticed was there was a lot of issues popping up with graduates who were going up and setting up their own businesses and SMEs. And we were starting to pick up on they were kind of lacking skills, kind of basic management skills and normal kind of skills that you would expect in the workplace. There was a couple of situations where some graduates had set up their own businesses. They'd taken on other graduates as well, and then you could see that there was a bit of a toxic mix occurring, where graduates were expecting to be trained up and to be given skills, but at the same time you also had graduates who were running the organisation and leading, and they were potentially missing the skills as well. So it kind of triggered me off to kind of think of picking a PhD topic kind of concerning this. Now, I'm not going to go reading throughout all the background and justification, but what you notice is that when I started reading into it, what we kind of picked up, what I picked up on the fact is that UK student employability is a highly debated area. Okay, you know, there's a lot of research that kind of has gone on it over the years, Bridgestone, Hillard, Pollard, for example, and it's kind of identifying that that students are leaving university and they are missing key soft skills. So they've got hard skills, but they are potentially missing the key soft skills that they need to continue to develop on with their careers. And to help them kind of transfer and move forward. And then kind of reading on and through the rest of the research, what I kind of picked up on is that people can't question, well, if graduates leave university and they're missing skills, what kind of impact does this have on the business? Are the business able to pick this up? Do they have the opportunities to do it? And if we think about this from a big business point of view, you have loads of resources, you have loads of staff, you have loads of abilities, but in SMEs, is this a problem? So you can see that I started to kind of hone in, and that was a particular area that I kind of wanted to explore. As Harrison identifies, over the past 20 years, graduate employability has been high on different agendas for higher education and government across the UK, and there are concerns that there are definite shortcomings as to what happens with our graduates when they leave university and the kind of skills that they have. So we put some of the different kind of background on there, and that kind of led me to the question, which is to kind of look at graduate employability in Greater Lincolnshire within SME businesses, and looking from a HR perspective to see whether there's things that need to be done, whether we're overlooking things, and looking at the different kind of stakeholders, conceptualisations, and how they view employability. So that's kind of where the question kind of came from, and how I kind of devised what I wanted to do and set the path off of where I wanted to go. So the key areas of investigation from the research, I decided to do explanatory research because there's not much on this. It's focused on Greater Lincolnshire, so therefore there isn't any research that's been around graduate recruitment in SME businesses. So decided to do some exploratory research, and that was going to be the main focus of what I wanted to kind of focus on. Knowing that nothing had been done before, let's see what I could kind of come up with. Now there are different kind of subsection questions that I wanted to kind of research questions to explore. So to what extent is there a difference between the perceptions of what the core employability skills are that are needed for graduate recruitment, which are held by HREs, SME businesses, graduates. So taking in people's different perceptions to see what they feel employability skills are. Also to look and see whether, is there a skills gap? Is there a graduate skills gap that is occurring? And are SME businesses having to pick this up? Do they have the appropriate HR strategy resources to address the development of human capital within graduates? So another key area of focus that I looked into. And then are new approaches needed both by universities, because we create the graduates, but also by SME employers as well, to kind of continue on with that human capital development of graduates. So that was kind of the path that I wanted to kind of go down with the key areas of investigation. So, the research objectives are on the board, and obviously I know I've got time, I'm conscious of time, so to investigate the difference, if there's any key stakeholder perceptions about employability skills and the impact that can have for successful graduate recruitment and ongoing development, to identify the skills gap that is occurring in Greater Lincolnshire, which SME businesses feel that they have to address, to discover if SME businesses in Greater Lincolnshire provide positive organisational cultures that kind of support the development of graduates' human capital when they start working in them, and to develop and formulate new practical initiatives to improve graduate recruitment and ongoing graduate talent development. So also looking forward and ahead, okay, see if there was anything that I could extract to bring back to universities, to bring back to the local economy and help us. So I've touched on the theoretical framework, okay. So, human capital theory. So initially conceived by Mincer and Schultz and Becker. So there's loads that's been done historically concerning human capital theory. And that kind of gave me a good idea, as a good layout of areas to kind of explore, to kind of dig into the topic. So what I settled on was Thomas et al, because it's a nice pretty looking model, and it's nice and laid out, and gives me clear areas of focus. So the questions that I've kind of focused on have been looking at organisational culture, looking at the leadership that goes on within the SME businesses, looking at the talent management, the talent development, and what resources are occurring for graduates when they go into SME businesses. And then kind of also looking at the structure, looking at the size of the organisation, the leadership that they have in place. So that's given me a nice clear model to be able to set the questions up, and it's given me a nice thematic approach to be able to work through my research and kind of to dig into the topic. Human capital, just a bit of extra information. Ultimately, it provides knowledge, skills and capabilities which can develop through personal growth and an influential investment in organisations. So, the key point there that we have is, this is what we need to be focused on. If we want graduates to be the best that they can be, this is a perfect model to be able to kind of look at and start to analyse and see what might be missing, or what do we excel in. Okay, so that's been the theoretical framework that I've used to be able to shape my research with. So, my methodology that I've undertaken. So I've gone for mixed methodology as an approach. So I've done interviews and I've also done surveys. Okay, so I've thrown up there. I haven't got one of them little laser things, so I can do it with a crutch. Okay, so I've gone down Cresswell's explanatory research methods, mixed methods research, which gives me a nice simple process to be able to follow. So there was a stage one, looking at kind of the quantitative, but also qualitative as well. That kind of set me up to be able to analyse data, extract some meaning, pick up on some of the key themes that were coming out, and then I was able to move off into a stage two to then focus on the interviews and the qualitative aspect. And to start digging deeper into some of the things that were coming out and some of the themes. So Cresswell's been kind of influential. Now, I know a lot of people who are involved in research kind of like turn their eye when they hear Saunders' research onion, because it's everyone's like, it's done before. But realistically, Saunders' research onion has given me a nice straightforward methodology approach, a framework to be able to dig in, follow my way through and make sure that I tick all the boxes on my PhD thesis and make sure that I've done a nice straightforward approach. So these are the two methodology frameworks I've utilised to be able to kind of do my research. Now, I have gone for a critical realism approach towards my research and philosophy. So I've highlighted some keywords because for critical realism, there's a lot that can be said on it, okay? But ultimately, key points, it's about experiences and perceptions of the world and being able to try and capture that, okay? What we're trying to do is via people's perceptions and their sense of human senses, a state of truth and accuracy can be achieved in how people perceive the world. I want to hear what the graduates are saying. I want to hear what they are feeling. I want to hear what the managers are saying and what they are saying influences the practices that they have in organisations or what is potentially missing. So for me, critical realism was the perfect philosophical approach to be able to take this on with. It's there to be able to explore complex systems and research and start to dig deeper, okay? It identifies what works for whom, when and why, looks at the what is, and presents a solid reality of our perceptions to a greater degree. Now just remember, as I stated, this is exploratory research. It's hard to be able to get a sample size and match that up. So for me, it made perfect sense to start to look at this from a mixed method approach, try and gather feelings, and kind of start to come up with potential beginnings of things that will be built upon for later research. So, and a key point there, as I highlighted there, it's about capturing people's real world. Okay, I wanted to move away from it just being a theory-based thing and saying theoretically this should work and this shouldn't work. I've gone for the path of I want to see what the graduates are actually saying themselves and what the actual SME businesses are. So that's kind of the path that I've gone down with critical realism without going too deep on it. So I've identified some of the key points on here. So qualitative, quantitative approach, mixed methods, stage 1 and 2. I've gone for an inductive approach. So I'm going to collect empirical data and lead to the formation of theory based on observations of the data, tying back in with that critical realism. It's a cross-sectional study, so capturing that snapshot of time of where we are right now within this year and what's going on concerning graduate recruitment. I've gone for non-probability, homogeneous convenience sampling strategy. In other words, I can't work out how many SME businesses there are, I can't work out how many graduates there are because there isn't the data to be able to really pin this down and give specifics. It's hard to work out the sample size. And then data analysis, SPSS for the quantitative data, and then bringing in coding for the qualitative data and using triangulation to bring that all together and to be able to come up with some potential answers and some potential ideas towards the end. So that's the approach that I've kind of used and set my methodology up and undertaken. So, in essence, the research design has been created to explore and tackle research topic where no previous research has been done before, look at a problem that has no clear definition of the problem exists. The sample size is selected for the research will provide new themes and phenomena to explore in depth and look at that what, why, how, okay? Which then can be investigated in later stages. So that's kind of the underpinnings and the justification when I have to defend my viva of why I've picked what I've picked and what I've done. So, my last slide as my quick little whistle stop. I've collected the data, and the data is pretty interesting, okay? I haven't put any data up on here because I'm still at that protectionist side at the moment where I don't want to just share it because I want to get the best from it and keep on analysing it. So hopefully within the next month that will all be analysed and I'll have my clear themes. But so far I managed to get 121 graduate responses and I also managed to get 61 businesses, SME businesses, to respond and share their viewpoints. So stage 1 has been done. I'm going to be doing 8 graduate interviews, 8 SME managers interviews and 2 university careers team employee interviews as well. So most of them are undertaken. And yeah, so the aim is to have my full review, final draft ready for review for September 2022. So 40,000 words already in and 40,000 more to go by the end of September, beginning of September. So that is a quick overview of what I've done and where I am up to at this moment in time. So thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. So we'll open the floor. Any questions, comments, feedback?
So, can I ask you?
Yeah.
I'm Rujan. We are total from Kazakhstan. We all internship students. So maybe my question will not be close to the topic, but I would like to ask you how difficult or easy, maybe, I don't know, so to discover small and medium business enterprise here.
So just say that again, sorry, just...
To open small, maybe
right.
difficult or easy, maybe
Yeah.
any government programs to entertainment.
So, Lincolnshire is quite good in the respect of it's quite a rural county, But there's other business hubs that have been set up, and the business hubs, like we've got Spark House and FinTech here, and a lot of our graduates who've got business ideas will then go off and move up in there for cheaper rent, support put in place, and access to different resources, funding streams and stuff. So there's quite a lot of small enterprise kind of businesses across Lincolnshire, not just across the university, but there's one in town, there's one at Bishop Rock University. So the opportunity there for people to set up small enterprises is quite easy. But that part of the problem of trying to be able to identify just how many SME businesses there are, because there's a lot of sole traders where people it's one person and they're doing a bit of a side hustle, you know, kind of setting up their own small business, and it's just them on their own. And that kind of skewed the figures, which made it hard to be able to identify, because I was looking for businesses with 2 people and beyond, and I couldn't work out how many were just 1. So, but yeah, in Lincolnshire, good opportunities to be able to do so, and the investment is there. You've just got to be in the right place or go to the right locations. Does that make sense?
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Any other questions? Right, maybe a very quick question for me, because I'm based on your stage, the current stage, and then how does your first stage of the survey, right? Into the questionnaire, using questionnaire and survey in the first stage. How does it inform your second stage? That is I think it's a one-to-one or that interview, right?
So when I did the interviews, when I did the survey, I created that as a mixed methods approach, so there's qualitative and quantitative there. And then I put that through SPSS, so I was able to break down data sets, cross-compare, look at different, I can't think of the word now, demographics, and start to break down some of the questions, so based on business size or gender. So I was able to start to extract certain themes from that. That then, after an initial set of analysis, which took a week of sitting down and going through the data and so on, but then I was able to create a load of questions.
So it's still under the data analysis stage?
Yes, yeah, and then that then led to the interview questions. So the interview questions are based on some of the themes that I've picked out, because I've got a load of data saying one thing, but now I'm able to step into the next level and go, can you tell me why, in your opinion? So that's why I picked Creswell, because I felt that was a nice sequential approach and justified approach to gather people's views and capture that real world.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, just one quick question. Yeah, it's about the critical realism perspective. Why particularly that? I mean, in the sense, you know, you talk about structure and agency, isn't it?
Yeah.
So where does that come into the study?
Well, I think because when I initially looked, I initially picked just realism, and then based on kind of the feedback that I had when I did my transfer to PhD, they would have eyes and look down the critical realism path. I think because it was about taking it to the next level and really kind of looking at that, you know, because we're talking about agency and power and so on, that does exist, and the fact that businesses have the power not to train people up, have the power to choose to focus funding and give the funding to other people, to other things, priorities in the business, and not focus on the graduates or other employees. And as we all know, training, when you hit a rough time, training is always one of the first things to go for employees. So there is that critical realism thing of capturing the real world. For me, for the exploratory research, I wanted to capture what people's lived in experiences, rather than just focusing on, a load of data's told me this, so this is obviously the same for everyone. And actually, so does that make sense?
Yeah, I see that. Something quantitative data would support the realist perspective, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it points me in the right path and gives me some data, but realistically, I'm after the quality to take that to the next step, because that qualitative is what will potentially shape other people when they see my outcomes. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Did I answer that one all right?
Thank you. All right, so thank you so much.
Thank you.